Am I the arsehole for telling my sister she's ridiculous for divorcing her husband over a TikTok prank? So my sister, who we'll call Amy, was married to a guy who we'll call Steve for about 3 years. This was until about 2 months ago when they separated over this prank that he pulled. I had always thought he was a really nice guy. He was super funny, nice to be around, and that is kind of why I think this whole thing is just so ridiculous over something that was just a mistake. So here's what happened. So Steve, whose job is on TikTok, decided he was going to pull a prank on Amy's 15-year-old son. Now, I won't go too much into what the prank was, but it ended up in my nephew falling and banging his head. And that is the whole reason she's decided to separate from him. He was actually rushed into hospital and is now being treated for brain damage. He now struggles to eat because he's got impaired motor control, and bless him, he even has a very, very limited speech. It's now got to the point where if you ask him something, he'll just stare at you. It's gotten to the point where my sister will have to kneel down next to him and very calmly and quietly ask him what he needs to get him to respond. He's become such an angry, angry kid. And now all I see when I look at him is his 7-year-old self just masquerading in his 15-year-old body. Now, these symptoms are of course absolutely awful and possibly permanent, but I keep saying it was just a mistake on behalf of Steve. I believe that divorce is way too much of a harsh punishment for this mistake. And instead they should have just negotiated boundaries and disallowed TikTok in the house or something along those lines. Because her husband was the only one using TikTok in the house. I've been trying to keep the decision of the divorce to myself, but I am secretly mourning the loss of my brother-in-law. However, yesterday I went over and the topic of the incident came up. So I told her exactly what I thought. I said, I think you're being ridiculous over just a mistake. I told her that it might be worth considering her options here, because clearly this one was so emotionally driven. And my sister was not happy about this. Amy said that I was free to marry him because he'd be free soon. And my mother also interjected at that point. And despite liking my brother-in-law before, my mum turned around and said that I have no say in what my sister does with her life. And she then said that my precious brother-in-law ruined my nephew's life with his incompetence. So at that point I yelled at them and said, this society's inability to forgive mistakes is the reason we're all in this mess. They eventually kicked me out when the argument went on for longer than 10 minutes or so. Do you know what? I thought I was being exceptionally reasonable here. However, my boyfriend is also on their side. So what do you think? Am I the arsehole? I'm going to add my comments in here because I never get involved in the drama and I have opinions on this video. So the writer says that it was just a mistake, but I'm sorry, a mistake is getting someone the wrong type of Pepsi Max, not causing them to have a brain damage. And I think she should take her sister's advice and marry him because she is clearly in love with Steve.